I agree. And I'm going to share the good and I'm going to share the resistance too, because I don't want to create a painted picture perfect view that doesn't exist. It was always important to me that my kids were brought up eating healthy. From the moment I was pregnant, I ate healthier than I ever did because I so believed that these were the building blocks of these beautiful children and for them to be strong and healthy. And so my kids were absolutely brought up on, whole fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And, I was that mom at the first birthday who didn't do birthday cake and probably made like some whole grain muffin or something like that. But I just felt like I'm going to keep it away from them as long as I can. So they've been brought up eating very healthy. We've always had dinner together as a family, which I know you and I both feel is super important. I've involved them where we've always had small gardens. I mean, small, like I'm not a green thumb, but like of berries and carrots and whatnot. And I've always had them involved no matter how messy it was, so that they could see where their food came from. And they've always eaten better when they eat it right out of the dirt and like they made it. Um, so those are some of the good things that I think are important. I think it's important to involve them. I think it's important to ask when you're planning your meals for the week, like, okay, what does everybody want? When they were younger, we did this thing where we said, who wants to be the little chef for the week or the day? And so when you were the little chef, it meant, we wouldn't call them that now, but if you're a little chef, then you got to pick what we were going to make and you helped me make it. And so that was kind of the honor of getting to pick was you helped me make it. So they've always been pretty involved in the kitchen. Jacob was even really proud of himself that he created. I mean, it was so awesome. I wish he was still into cooking now. He's 14 now, but he was very into cooking. He created his own recipe that he called green something pizza. And it was basically, you know what it really was, Maria? It was basically a frittata. And like he made the recipe and I still have a card for it. And we tweaked it a little bit because at first he wanted to put sugar in it. I didn't really get that, but then once we omitted the sugar, it was actually awesome, and it was something that we made regularly. And it was like I'd pull out his recipe card, and he was so proud of it. I will I will find Jacob's recipe card. He would be very proud. But I also want to share the resistance. And that is as the kids got older and went to elementary school and middle school and sports, they're like, Mom, I want to eat Doritos. I want to eat the foods I see my friends eating. And that was so sad to me because I have other, every family is different. I have other friends who have raised their kids healthy and the kids have bought in, and so it made me sad to realize, God, my kids are still not getting how this can harm their body and slow them down. And so knowing that the mind is so powerful, I'm really trying to build their mind so they feel like it's their choice. Because if they feel deprived, it's just going to make them want it more. So one example of that was we were at Disneyland, and believe it or not, Disneyland actually has some very healthy choices now. So Jason and yeah, Jason and I got like these roasted vegetable salads and they were great. It was with millet and it was wonderful. And I swear to you, what I'm about to say is true. My son wanted a burger with macaroni and cheese on it. Like, just hearing that makes me get nausea and vomit in my mouth. And my first reaction was, God, no. And Jason goes, no, let him have it. Like, let him make that choice. So he had that. It killed me while I'm eating my salad. Within 5 minutes, he was so sick. And he's like, oh my God, Mom, I feel so gross. Jason and I felt great. We went and got a Dole Whip and then we went on some rides. He felt sick for hours. I guarantee you, he will never, ever think of ordering that again. And so when he feels that way, rather than a lecture or something like that, we're just like, just tap into this. Just remember how that kind of food makes you feel. And so we're very connected on how food makes you feel. One of my favorite things we did with the kids growing up was something called snack cards. And I think I've introduced you to Carrie, who created those. It's SNAC cards. And they're the cutest flashcards because I realized quickly that my kids didn't care about carbohydrates and protein and fat. So what she created was these cards where they're flashcards where it's mover foods, brain foods, sludge, like for the macaroni cheeseburger would be sludge, and so, like, if my daughter, she is a much pickier eater. If she doesn't like what I made for dinner, I don't make a second dinner. But if she doesn't like the protein, let's say, that I made, I'll say, okay, go get yourself another muscle food. And she knows to go get a hard boiled egg out of the fridge or some turkey or something like that. So that was another, yeah, another thing that we did to kind of teach our kids about food and fuel. Mm. It, It's funny, Maria. I had a client who has, through our Body Back program, totally changed her diet, and she's eating so clean. And she had, if you want to call it a cheat or whatever, she succumbed to some holiday eating right now. She went to a holiday party, and she's like, "Oh my God, I have felt gross for 2 days ever since." And she goes, that's the downside of eating so clean is that you feel so bad. I go, no, I need you to flip that. I need you to realize most people who don't eat clean feel bad every single day and don't know it. We live in a state of maybe you're not sick, but that's not health. So most people feel gross, don't have the energy, don't have the stamina, everything, that vibrance, that to thrive. That's how you feel when you eat every day. So yes, when you go off of it you feel like crap, but realize that when you eat like that regularly, you never feel good and you're not even realizing it. You live in a fog. Hmm. I'm not. I am so sticking with it, and um it's just how we live. And you know, yeah, and if your kids want the Doritos or whatever the case might be, don't see it as that you failed, because they are absorbing more than you realize. Like my mother-in-law took the kids, she took the kids, funny enough, to a burger place, and both of my kids ordered a salad. And she's like, "What?" She's like, "What kind of, like, what is going on here?" And the kids are like, "Yeah, know what? We had, a heavy breakfast or something like that, and just don't want it." Like, they wanted that on their own. Grandma was taking them for burgers. So it is absorbing more than, yeah, she's like, she was, she, she's like, what have you done to these children? But they did that on their own. I mean, I would have been fine if they got burgers. So I guess what I'm saying is they're absorbing more than you realize. And, you keep the lessons positive and you just help them understand how food is fuel. You know what I mean? Like, you want to do great on that test you're going into today? Here would be a great breakfast to get your brain working. You want to make the goal in soccer? Here's great food that will help you run faster and be focused. So, gosh, I believe so much in the power of food. Small step. I believe that success begets success. So I would say pick one thing that you believe you will be successful with and stick with it for a week or two to make it a habit. Usually, I have find that water is one of the first things that most of us are dehydrated, and I find that that's actually a pretty easy thing to change in your life. So, I mean, you and I both have so many different tricks to get your water in. So whether you fill up a jar with the right amount at the beginning of the day and a variety of other little things. So pick one habit that you really want to work on, make it a habit, get some success, and then figure out what the next habit is that you want to work on. Mhm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've done so many different things, and it's funny because once in a while I go, "Oh yeah, I'm probably not getting in as much water as I should." So I know how many cups of water that I need to drink a day, and it depends on how much you're exercising. So for most of us, the general rule is 8 8-ounce glasses, but it might be more depending on how much you're exercising and the environment that you're in. And so every time I fill my cup up, I just take a dry erase marker and do a little hash mark. And so I know that I need to fill it up a certain amount of times a day. So it just helps me track how much water I'm actually getting in. You're welcome. And I'm drinking coffee, realizing I need to go get water. And tired too. I am a breakfast eater. I love breakfast. And I will be honest to tell you, I eat eggs almost every day, probably 6 days a week. We go through Costco organic eggs. Like people think that we're a market. They're like, oh, do you have a restaurant that you're shopping for? Um, so, like, one of my favorite meals is I make a really good egg burrito. My egg burrito and a cup of coffee. I love it with some turkey in it, spinach, avocado, a little bit of pesto. Love my egg burritos. No way. You always have to cook for me. You're the cook. Do I ever do Brenner? Very rarely. I do not know why. Maybe it's because we eat eggs so much that whenever I mention that, my family's like, "Yeah, don't want it." So we don't we don't do a lot of starchy carbs, especially because my husband is gluten free. So for a variety of health reasons. So, I we couldn't be that family to make pancakes or something like that. So knowing that we've already had eggs for breakfast, it doesn't happen that often. I can get an egg thing done in a couple minutes. I mean, regularly, like if it's not an egg burrito, like my kids just love eggs with a little bit of chopped turkey and drop a pesto on the top, and then like a ridiculous amount of avocados we eat too. Like, well, the feeling is mutual. Thank you so much. You're part of my tribe for sure. Well, go to fitformom.com. It's fit and then the number 4 mom.com. We'd love to have any of your followers follow us and join us in any class. We have classes for every stage of motherhood. Follow our blog, connect with us. If you want to become an instructor or franchisee, we'd love to have you all part of our village. In a good way. It's more than just fitness. It's your village. Thanks, my friend.